big poppin'. Money in the bank, coming, dropping a deposit. Having it my way, so I got these bitches watching. Steady getting to it, couldn't fit it in my pocket. Flexing everything, baby, tell me big poppin'. Money in the bank, coming, dropping a deposit. Having it my way, so I got these bitches watching. Steady getting to it, couldn't fit it in my pocket. Flexing everything, baby, tell me what the topic.
What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the bar. It's your favorite goss and doc tender, that girl Henny. And today we are going to be pouring up on Diddy attempting to get an acquittal ahead of his October 3rd sentencing. Dun, dun, dun. I know. We saw this coming, but we didn't see this coming. But at the same time, how could you expect anything less when he refused to go into that long kiss goodnight, so to speak? But today he is in court. From what I am gathering and the information that I'm hearing, there is no pizzazz. There is no any of that going on. Diddy is in court in a tan jumpsuit today, like a commoner. Now, as you all know, or maybe you don't know, because I haven't been keeping up with what's been going on with everything the way that I should have, meaning coming live and posting to you guys and letting you guys know what's going on. However, I will say this. The defense team has done everything that Judge Submaranian asked them not to do when it came down to submitting court documents. And today is no different, because now here we are where they are seeking an acquittal. Now, there are a lot of YouTubers that are there, and there's a lot of YouTubers who are not there. And one of the YouTubers that is there is Morelli. Now, I met him when I was out there. He is in the courtroom. So what I do want to do is I want to bring you guys what he had to say, I guess, while they were on break. We're going to do what we usually do, and we're going to follow up with Inner City Press. Now, if you remember, following Inner City Press is not the actual transcript. What it actually is giving you Inner City Press's summation of what's going on in the courtroom. So we will not be getting all of the information like how when I was there writing everything down. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be whatever he deemed to be necessary for him to report on, or what was important in his eyes for reporting. So let's go ahead. Let's hear what Mered had to say. Shout out to him. Make sure you give his channel a follow. Content creator from across the pond.
We are live from the courthouse. We are live from the courthouse. How many are there? Sharp. Thank you, guys. Hello, everybody. I'm in New York. I'm here. Oh, my God. Today, guys, Janice was sitting in front of me. I was in the main courtroom with Diddy. I was in the courtroom with this man. The way when he walked into the trial. Oh, my God, guys. Oh.
Now, let me explain to you why this is such a big deal for him, because there was a lot of kerfuffle that was going on during the trial as to who was getting in and who was not getting in. You did have your accredited press pass holders, like myself, who were able to get in as press. Then you had those who were just there as public seats. And there were some people who were getting a little bit of privilege, who were, they had assigned seating for them and whomever they chose in the courtroom. There was at least 3 seats that I know of, due to the rumblings in the courthouse while I was there, of people who had seats that was theirs and they were not press. So, then there was that, and there was a lot of people that did not get a chance to get into the main courtroom. So I totally understand what his excitement is of being in there. It is a different energy. It is a different vibe, but I am going to tell you, I prefer the overflow because I can hear better and see things that you just can't see in the main courtroom.
It's not raining heavy, guys, for those who are asking. We walked straight. Diddy was right there as he walked in. I thought I was going to be in the overflow room. We were in the main courtroom with Diddy. The twin sisters were sitting in front of me. Janet, you can see here. Let me just show you real quick.
Let's get.
You can see that the courthouse was packed out in that courtroom. Acquittal.
Okay, here we go.
The family looked so lazy. They looked so tired. They weren't. They seemed
shout out to everybody
very exhausted. It was a very long hearing about acquittal and whether these charges are going to be dropped or a new trial. The judge says, after this long hearing, is going to announce it in a couple of hours today. We don't know when. Diddy was upbeat. When he came in, the man was saying hello to everybody, smiles, gray hair. He goes through his filings. Let me tell you about the judge. Judge Arun, let me make it very clear to you guys. Judge Arun was dragging the defense. Judge was dragging the defense continuously. When the defense was speaking, the judge kept interrupting.
Now, I'm not surprised by this because, first of all, let's go through some of the things that the defense has done that the judge asked them not to do. So when the judge told them, if y'all remember, they were told to submit in writing cases that were similar to the argument that they were presenting as to how much time Diddy should get, and that those cases should represent where their stance is, that they were not supposed to be putting arguments in those reports. However, they were making arguments in those documents as they were submitting them. So let's continue.
Multiple times, because Anna Estavo, the main lawyer who was leading, she kept stumbling over her words. She did not have the defense do not have a clear and coherent argument. From the way I was in that courtroom, I heard the way that they were arguing. They didn't know what they were talking about. They had no idea what they were talking about. They kept referring to the racist origins of the Mann Act. And of course, Christy Slavic, who was leading the prosecution, was like, you've already argued this before. It's been, thrown out. Why are you regurgitating the same argument? Why are you saying the same stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
Now, I am going to say to you, this is true. They did bring this argument up at trial. They brought this argument up in documentation, and now here they are bringing it up again. I will say, yes, when you go into that courtroom and you are seeing somebody at a stature that's like Diddy, some people are going to be overly excited about being in the presence of, regardless to what your stance may be on it. It's going to be an awing moment like, oh shit, Diddy is right there. Like, he's literally right there. Now, when I was in the courtroom and Diddy came in, he does come in, he greets everybody, he throws up the hearts, he nods his head, he does a visual survey of the room, he makes eye contact with people. So this is something that he does. Now, again, this is his first time being in the courtroom. He didn't get to go in the courtroom during the whole 2 months that we were there, all of us reporting on the case. So for him, I guess, he's fangirling a little bit right now, but he's still reporting. And what he's saying is actual facts right now, that we've heard these arguments before. And this seems to be something that, unfortunately, the defense keeps falling into this rut of repeating themselves. Now, I am going to also read for you. We're going to listen to a little bit of him, and then I'm going to read for you some of Inner City Press's transcribing. And in the transcriptions, what I was seeing was that Diddy came in with a big folder. So as I told y'all when I was there reporting live, Diddy is very active in his defense, and he's definitely like pulling the strings, telling them what he wants them to do. Also, did you make note that AUSA Slavic, she's leading the case now? If you remember Maureen Comey, she was fired by President Trump. And before the end of this video, I am going to get into that as well, because I didn't see anybody really report on this. So I'm going to give y'all the information about Maureen Comey, because she's actually suing the Department of Justice. She's suing Donald Trump. She's going for the gusto because she said she was wrongfully fired from her position. So Henny Glasses in the chat, if y'all want to hear that case, and stick around for it at the end. Okay. Let's continue to hear what his account is. And just so you know, so I'll be fair, I am going to also look at other content creators that are there to see what everybody's views on this case are, because some people are pro prosecution, some people are pro defense. Okay. So you're going to get perspectives from people from different angles, depending upon where they're swayed. Okay.
Does not make any sense. Does not make any sense. And let me show you one specific part. The judge is giving examples, right? Of this is what it was, looking at different case examples, and he was giving an example at a brothel, and the defense's lawyer says, well, that's a different case. The one with the brothel is a different case. The judge interrupts her, and the judge is like, well, why is it a different case? It's the same sentiments.
He's saying brothel. For those who may not be able to understand what he's saying, he's talking about brothel. Okay. Shout out to everybody who's watching from YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We are streaming on 3 platforms right now.
We're discussing of the Mann Act. Why are you why does it matter that it's a different case? He kept interrupting her like this and cornering Anna Estavo. She did not do a good job today. Brian Steele came in smiling with everybody, even looked at me, and he did a peace sign. I don't know why. I think he was just saying hello to people. I don't think it was personal. But clearly, the defense was struggling today. Like it was such a. I feel like even I could have gone in there and defended Diddy and have done a better job because you're regurgitating the same stuff. It didn't make any sense.
Now, that's odd to me that he's not odd, but it's ironic that he's saying that, because that was my stance as well when it came down to certain points in time for the defense. Oh, I don't have your comments up on the screen. My bad. We're not on Restream. We are on StreamYard right now. I meant to do my Restream, but I already have my Restream set up. For those of y'all who are here, who are waiting for me to report on the Brandon Isabel case, we are going to do that at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to go through day 1, 2, and today makes day 3. We're going to go through all of it so that way we're caught up to date, because that case has a lot of twists and turns. But now back to Diddy. That's the same thing that I was feeling at times. And I just feel like, you know, as we were watching these documents being submitted, it was just regurgitation. Now, I am going to fast forward just a little bit to get to maybe some of the meat and potatoes of things. So let's skip ahead just a little bit.
Oh my God. Diddy was watching, therefore there's no Mann Act. The defense are arguing, using other cases to show no prostitution. His lawyers kept stumbling and the judge pushed back, continuously interrupting. Continuously. Diddy also, I've noticed, has a new tattoo on the back of his neck. Something that I've not seen before. And the way I can describe it to you guys, when I was looking at it, it's like a crown. It's like this, like a crown.
So Diddy has a jail tattoo on the back of his neck of a crown. I would not be surprised by this at all if this is actually a jail prison tattoo that he got of a crown on the back of his neck, and it's something that he did not have already. Because if you beat a RICO and you beat a Pew Pew case and you got away with the stampede that happened at City College, you keep slipping through the cracks, you're gonna feel like you're the king. All right. He seems to be stumbling over a couple of things. Come on, Marid, give us the
case.
report.
Why using, and then for them to regurgitate the racist origins of the Mann Act and how the Mann Act basically has been wanting to be thrown out by some, Supreme Court judges. Again, doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me as to why you are regurgitating something that's already been discarded. And again, the prosecution were pretty good in that they kept referring to the fact that all of this has been made. He's been made guilty of this in court as it is by the same jurors that Diddy now wants to use, talking about prejudice. It ain't making sense. Oh, Lord have mercy. Today was a day of drama, guys, in the courtroom. Absolute drama in the courtroom. Why are the family all showing up fashionably late? I don't understand. Some of the family were even sleeping. They were dozing off. Even I was about to doze off.
Okay, so
we're going to find out later today, sometime today, what the judge is going to announce. But Judge Arun was not holding back.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this up for now while I talk to y'all about some of the stuff that has been going on. Now, shout out to Rutgers. That is where we are getting this from, this video that I'm playing for y'all right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read some of Inner City Press's tweets for y'all so that we can find out some of what happened in court. Hopefully I can get the transcript for today. I'm not sure. They have been holding transcripts. I do still have all of the transcripts from the original case. So yeah, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and let me share this instead. This is the family. They were there. So you see there is Janice, there is Charlucci. You saw Justin.
Good luck.
And this was 10 minutes ago from Inner City Press. So I'm going to assume that they are rested at this particular point in junction. All right. So now let's get down here into some of these tweets that have been made so we can all be caught up to date on all of this. All right. So 2 hours ago at 11:04 a.m., let me go back down. Let me see. Okay. So this is where it starts. All right. So it says, Do y'all want to see the tweets or do y'all want me? I think I want to just put this on here and just kind of give y'all a storytelling time. Okay, let's read it like a story. All right. So at 11:04 a.m., Diddy is still sitting in the holding cell. All right. And at the defense table is Alexandra Shapiro, who is also now representing one of the Alexander brothers. Now, if you don't remember the Alexander brother case, go into my playlist. I did 2 videos, maybe 3 on the Alexander brothers. That is a case that I am going to be covering, you guys. So you definitely want to be caught up with it. I can do another video if you guys want me to do a video on it, just updating you guys and bring it all up to speed. I can and I will. I do want to do a deep dive into them a little bit deeper than what I already have as we move forward towards that case. Okay. But he makes mention that she's representing one of them as well. Alexander Donaldson is there, Nicole Westmoreland, Brian Steele, and Mark Agnifilo. Okay. Prosecutors are stone faced in the front row. So all of the AUSAs are sitting there with a stone face, y'all. And at 11:06 a.m., Diddy is brought in. Now he's wearing an MDC 10 jail uniform. And if you remember, when we were covering this case, all of us that were out there in New York, when we were covering this case, we were telling you how he's coming in with his button ups and his pullover sweaters and, his pants. And he was, kind of looking the part of a pop, so to speak. But today he's in the jail uniform. And the reason for this is because apparently the proposed order for the button down shirt didn't get signed. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, so now Diddy unloads papers from a big folder and he's seated between Driscoll and Steele. All right. And they're just sitting there at first waiting for Judge Submarinian. So when Judge Submarinian comes in, of course, everybody rises. And so Alexandra Shapiro says, with us is Mark Garagos, and she made a mistake. She meant to say Teeny Garagos, right? And there was some laughter in the courtroom. And Judge Submarinian says, you don't have to take the full 15 minutes. If you said all you need, please proceed. Okay. So apparently she was rambling on and he's telling her like, look, don't take the 15 minutes. Just go ahead and proceed. Now, the AUSA, which I'm going to assume is Slavic because he didn't put a name to it. Okay. They pointed out USA versus Kelly in the Second Circuit in 2025, which stands that Diddy's Rule 29 argument had to have been raised during pretrial and then waived. All right. So now let's look and see what is a Rule 29, right? So a Rule 29 is most commonly refers to a federal rule of criminal procedure, which allows a judge to issue a judgment of acquittal if they find the evidence presented during the trial is legally insufficient to support a conviction. However, Rule 29 can also refer to other specific rules, such as federal rules for civil procedure 29 regarding discovery stipulations and a federal rule of appellate procedure 29. Okay, for ambiguous briefs or even rules in other jurisdictions or private contexts. So basically, we know that they're going for the acquittal. So the government is saying, look, they should have done this already. Okay, they were supposed to do this during the pretrial. They haven't done it yet, and now here we are. So the judge is on. He says any case that is deemed a defendant's Rule 29 argument is waived or forfeited, right? So Judge Submarinian says, let's separate out the jury instructions. They're saying that this defendant's constitutional arguments should have been made at Rule 12 stage, okay? So this shouldn't, what they're saying is this shouldn't have even gone on at this particular point in junction. And a Rule 12, is when it governs how a defendant must respond to a civil complaint by asserting defenses and objections through a responsive pleading or a pre-answer motion. So again, we're talking about pre-trial, pre-motions and all of that, right? So now AUSA Johnson says, I want to push. Okay, so wait. I missed the part. All right. No, I didn't. All right. So AUSA Johnson says, I want to push back on their reading of the cases in Dennis, because remember, the defense submitted a case on Dennis, right? So in Dennis, the defendant was arguing he couldn't be tried without infringing on the First Amendment. The parties agreed. it was only about sufficiency. Judge Submaranian says, but the court went right past waiver. So the judge asked Alexandra Shapiro, can you address these arguments? And so Shapiro stands up and she says, the Dennis case is on point. The court made clear that statutory constitution arguments can be raised under Rule 29. Also, the Lopez case that I argued that as well. So Judge Submaranian says, let's put the financial motive to the side. Why wouldn't Mr. Combs be liable under a willfully causing theory? Miss Ventura or Jane furnished payment for the escorts, but Mr. Combs still had the relevant intent. And this is where a lot of people are getting this all misconstrued at, because what the defense is trying to do is they're trying to say, listen, he can't be charged with the Mann Act because he wasn't the one that was actually engaging in forget it, in smex with them, right? He was watching. He was being a voyeur. It was Jane and it was Cassie that was engaging, right? He was just sitting back watching. But the problem with that argument is the fact that he wasn't just watching. He was an active participant, even though there was no penetration that we know of that happened. And I'm not saying that we know of to be funny or anything. I'm just saying we don't know what else was going on. But based off of this case, there was no penetration that happened between Diddy and anyone except for Cassie and Jane, right? So, even though there was no penetration, he still orchestrated it. He was telling them what to do, when to do it. He was controlling the lighting. He was filming it. He was still participating, even though there was no contact being made. So he still is a part of this, right? So now Shapiro pushes back on the judge and says, no, many states find that prostitution is only when A pays B for smex with A. Here, the government is saying to get around it. The government is trying to get around it. But the cases where people watch others have smex is not prostitution. The actus reus in the Mann Act is transportation. Okay, so if they want to go the route of transportation, let me go ahead and talk about that, because everyone seems to forget, and I'm still mad to this day that they have not released that evidence that shows how the transportation played out. And if you've been watching this channel, you know that I have harped on how they showed us how he put the text into Jane or Cassie, how he would tell them, you get the entertainment, I will get the place. And so he's paying for these hotel rooms with his Amex card. He's paying for these flights for Cassie or Jane and the escorts to fly into New York, Miami, LA, to not Cannes. What was the other damn place that they kept going to? Now I'm drawing a blank, but Turks and Caicos. You're paying for these flights, and then your businesses are paying for the credit card bill. So there's active participation here, regardless. All right. So Shapiro goes on and says commercial voyeurism is not prostitution. A number of states say that there's the Polino case in New York and a Georgia case. The government had alleged that a private residence had been used for prostitution, but the court said no, it was voyeurism. The statute originally had a section about debauchery, which was exercised later. The Supreme Court revised the Seventh Circuit holding that that had affirmed a conviction where the defendants did not have commercial motive. Traveling interstate for a woman being a mistress or a concubine, right? So this is the defense's argument, which is the same argument that we have been hearing from hold on one second. Marianne says, I heard the charts, plane, hotel, car service, KK and Ruiz booked. CO cards used as payment. That is not true, Marianne. When they showed us all of that information, it was a travel agency that booked the information, but his credit card was used to pay for the flights. His credit card was used to pay for the hotel rooms. So you got to see all of it. You would see where he and Cassie or he and Jane were having conversation with each other about setting up the freak offs. He would then instruct Jane or Cassie to call and get the entertainment. At that particular point in time, Cassie or Jane are making text messages to get the people there. They would then say, okay, the hotel room is already booked. The flights are arranged through the travel agent, but all of the credit card information led back to Diddy's credit card, and the payments for the credit cards went back to his credit cards. Matter of fact, I can go pull my, give me a second. I'll go pull my notes for you because I have them. Hold on 1 second, guys. Woo. Hold on 1 second, guys. Hold on. Here I go. My handy dandy notebooks. Hold on, because I believe it's in one of my yellow pads. Let's see. Defense flag 2 text messages. Question, what about the times the girls didn't get them? Like when he brought a dude to Jane's house after their fight. Right. He's harping on being in love. Love bombing. Okay, that's Dr. Dawn Hughes. Jane, this is Jane, so it should be somewhere after this. Okay, and they're also, the government is also looking at the fact that he was funding Jane and Cassie's lifestyle. They're looking at that as a form of prostitution as well, because, well, blackmail and prostitution, because he was holding them, allegedly, according to them, according to the government. That's how he was able to keep them doing what they were doing, because he was holding that over his head. Over their heads. You know, if you don't do this, then I'm not going to pay for your rent. If you don't do this, then I'm not going to do this. Okay, is this it? No, Teeny was still cross-examining her. All right. I'm going to go and look for that specifically for you, because it's a lot of notes, because I was there. I was there for 2 months. So it's a lot of notes, but I do have my notes, and I can tell you that what I had put out there, what I just said, is exactly how it was broken down to us in court. So that, yeah. And the defense has been holding tight to, hey, these were his girlfriends. These were not prostitutes. These were girlfriends. So it can't be. And the services were rendered for his girlfriends and not him. This has been the arguments that we have been hearing. So Merit is correct when he's saying that it's just regurgitated narratives over and over again. Now, Judge Submarinian does respond to Shapiro. Hold on 1 second. Commercial motive. Okay, so Judge Submarinian says the Cleveland case says polygamy met the immoral purposes test. And Shapiro says, respectfully, I disagree. There was a late 19th century case about immigration. All of the federal constitutional laws that develop around privacy of sexual relations, and the judge cut her off and says, Miss Foster. Now, if you know who Miss Foster is, he cut Alexandra Shapiro off to hear what AUSA Foster had to say. Okay. So AUSA Foster says this case is different, that where a person in a booth watches people have sex, Combs is challenging the term prostitution. Here, the women helped arrange the transportation of the escorts. So for the defendant, it's aiding and abetting. So Judge Submarinian says, you're saying they had the intent, they paid the money, they had the smex that is willfully caused. So Shapiro says, may I respond? So Judge Subramanian says, I'll give you time at closing, Miss Slavic. So AUSA Slavic says the record does not show that every time an escort traveled and had SMEX and that SMEX act was filmed. They only say routinely filmed. He frequently filmed freak-offs or hotel nights, but not all the time. The explicit videos charts show that there was travel for SMEX, but sometimes there were no videos recovered for those encounters. We can pull up the exhibits. So Judge Subramanian says you argue that even if they were filmed, it wouldn't matter. Slavic says, right. The Mann Act criminalizes travel for transportation for prostitution, not filming SMEX. The test for symbolic speech is whether there is an intent to convey a meaning. The transportation conveys no message. So there is no symbolic speech here. In O'Brien, the protected symbolic speech was the burning of draft cards. Here, transportation is not symbolic speech. So Judge Subramanian says, if a movie producer is making pornographic films, are you saying the First Amendment is not implicated? So Slavic says a closer call. Okay. In the other case cited, the producer said when they transported while being filmed while filming a movie. Here, he only intended the individuals to engage in prostitution. The defendant here was not an amateur porn producer. So, okay, judging off of what he just said, what they're probably trying to go at now, because remember, again, I need the whole transcript. We're going off of what Inner City Press is transcribing right now. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to compare being an amateur pornographic filmmaker versus what Diddy was doing. And so the government is saying, no, he's not an amateur filmmaker at all. So he's not covered by the First Amendment for this. And that's one of the things that the defense is also going for as well, is they're saying that his First Amendment constitutional rights were violated. Okay. So now Judge Subramanian asked, if we got to O'Brien, what is the important governmental interest? So Slavic says there is a substantial governmental interest in regulating prostitution. The court declined to apply O'Brien because the act had nothing to do with speech. And so this is where we're at with Diddy and this whole First Amendment thing. The acts have nothing to do with speech. Okay. She goes on to say, O'Brien, even he agreed that regulating prostitution is an important governmental interest on laws against nude dancing. Court find secondary impacts important. All right. There's a reason to regulate prostitution. See erotic service provider. And then they provide a case number about a California prostitution law. It's to prevent violence against women and for health. All 50 states regulate prostitution to different degrees. The federal interest kicks in for transportation interstate or internationally. The Barnes case found that requiring pasties for dancers was okay. So what they're getting into right now is they're getting into the fact that they have all submitted cases. And right now the judge is listening to what the government had to say and all the cases that they have used that kind of backed up what they're saying, and how there have been regulations and changes that have been made to prostitution throughout all 50 states. All right. So now Judge Subramanian asked Ms. Shapiro to speak on the First Amendment. So Shapiro says it was filmed the majority of the time. Okay, just because the footage wasn't found doesn't matter. The government has ignored the second First Amendment argument that he was a consumer of amateur porn. As to being producer, amateur porn is protected by the First Amendment. Told y'all, this is what they've been trying to do. And this is why I was like, you know what? This is homemade porn. This is not industry porn. What are we talking about here? So Shapiro goes on and says, at trial, they emphasized that it was choreographed, that there was no role playing, that there was role playing in wigs. It was filmed, so covered by the First Amendment Act. But Mr. Combs also had a right as a consumer of amateur porn. See free speech correlation, Coalition versus Paxton. Let me say this. They're saying he's just a consumer. He's just a voyeur. He's just a person who was paying for these things for their girlfriend. And again, I just feel like the downplaying of things, the downplaying of it is the part that really gets me. Now, I get it. And I hear people, and I know a lot of people turned on me when it came down to Diddy not being found guilty of RICO and Diddy not being found guilty of sex trafficking. Okay. A lot of people turned and they started running with all the defense is this and that and the third, but this is the type of stuff that they're trying to do. Again, this is the defense's job to try to put on the best case possible to get their client off or get him the least amount of time as possible. But based off of what I'm hearing right now, I'm not sold on that. Now, I know that there are plenty of us who have filmed, people have filmed themselves having sex. A lot of you probably have your own porn tapes that you have done yourself with a mate or a lover or any of that, but you weren't hiring prostitutes. Either way, if I was sitting in a room and you were sitting in the room with me, and I'm asking this question, I really want y'all to answer down in the comment section. If we're sitting in a room together and I jump up and I cut somebody from ear to ear and you're sitting there watching it and they bleed out and they backspace, they're no longer with us. Doesn't the law make you an accessory to the crime because you were there? And you did nothing. You didn't call the police. You didn't do any of that. Wouldn't that make you an accessory to it? Now, I'm going to let y'all answer that, and then I'm going to continue to read a little bit more. All right. So, Shapiro says Jane even bought a TV so they could watch the videos together. And Judge Submarinian cut her off and says, how does that apply to the transportation count? So Shapiro says, if the intent included filming and watching later. So Judge Submarinian says, so not prostitution if it's recorded and watched later. Like, do you hear this? She's like, well, it was recorded and watched later, so it's not prostitution. And the judge is like, so if they record it and watch it later, it's not prostitution. You're just going to skip past the whole point of someone being paid to be there for sex work. Right? And I see some of you have answers saying 100. Yep. Yes. So he's still an accessory. Swagger, your trolling has really been a lot lately. I'm just going to tell you that. Also, he was using videos as blackmail and victims as exactly, Marie. Those videos were being used as blackmail. Like, people forget that part that when him and Cassie were on their way back from Cannes and she switched her seat to get away from him and he switches seats and sits next to her and flips open a laptop and threatens her to send out her videos with these escorts that he's filmed. Not only that, he called her mother and told her, demanded $20,000, regardless to whether he sent it back to her or not. The fact of the matter is, it was sent to him. She was told, send me this money or I'm releasing your daughter's tapes. You have an email that says that. So you can't use these videos to hide behind and say he's innocent when he's used these videos in acts of crime. Blackmail and extortion are crimes. Even if he wasn't charged with it or found guilty of it, it's still a crime. And I'm glad that the judge called that out. Okay, that they're trying to say, oh, well, they watched it later, they recorded and watched it later, so it's not prostitution. Get the hell out of here. Money was exchanged for somebody to come pull their private parts out and touch somebody else's private parts with it. I like that. Anyway, Shapiro says you wouldn't have to find this. You wouldn't have to find this. This is a unique case. So Judge Submarinian says Ms. Slavic pointed out the government's other interests, including transportation across state lines. So Shapiro says you had to look at the conduct of the defendant. So Judge Submarinian says they say drug use. Like, everything that she's coming with, Judge Submarinian seems to be shutting this down from what I'm reading. I don't know. Hopefully I can get this transcript. All right. Shapiro goes on to say the only drug charges here were in the RICO charges, of which Mr. Combs was acquitted. Department of Justice policy doesn't even say what Ms. Slavic says. It says the statute should only be used on prostitution as a business or the trafficking of minors. All right. So Judge Submarinian says, those were my questions, Miss Shapiro. So Shapiro says, I believe Miss Foster said the two women testified they were paying for prostitution. We must have been in a different trial. I don't remember either woman saying that they were involved in prostitution. So Judge Submarinian says, let me ask you, a businessman takes one of his clients to a brothel and pays for a prostitute to have sex with his client. That's not prostitution. So Shapiro says, is he a voyeur as well? I'm going to ask y'all that same question. Let me ask that question again. A businessman takes one of his clients to a brothel and pays for a prostitute to have sex with his client. That's not prostitution? And Shapiro says, is he a voyeur as well? Let me just say this. That is in fact prostitution because it was paid for. Let me put some music. I want some calm music. So I'm just going to put some low music on right now. Would you say I cracked up when I heard Miss Shapiro's response? Okay, like, are you serious right now? Hey, Monique. All right. So she goes on to say, the Mann Act has racist origins. Even 100 years ago, the statute was being criticized by many Supreme Court justices. The many juries refused to enforce it. This statute is embarrassing to the United States. I submit respectfully, Mr. Combs should be acquitted of the Mann Act counts. Thank you. So Slavic gets up. She says the purpose of the Mann Act has no impact on First Amendment activities. The arguments about Department of Justice policy, those have been argued before. There was a motion to dismiss denied. They claim there should be no concern about secondary effects because it was behind closed doors. But that's the point. Miss Ventura was being punched and kicked. The defendant has the burden to show that the evidence was not sufficient. They can't do it. Cassie and Jane both testified, although they didn't want to be having sex with others, but they had to do. Wait, okay. Although they didn't want to be having sex with others, they had to do it for days. He planned them. He choreographed them for his own pleasure. If the escort couldn't perform, he was paid less, which we know because when they got out here on their press run tours, that's what they got out here and they interviewed and answered to. She goes on to say, this went on for 15 years. The evidence is sufficient. The defendant's motion should be denied. So Judge Submarinian says, thank you. Anything about sentencing, if the motion is not granted, Shapiro says no. So Judge Submaranian says, I'll decide soon, and court has been adjourned. Mommy, you see them, right? They are really, really trying it and trying it hard. Okay. They are trying it hard because I get it. Your client doesn't want to be in the MDC. I get it. The MDC is egregious. It has a very bad history. Um, there's a lot of stuff that has going on there that is questionable as far as practices and all of that. I get it. I get it. But a lot of people didn't want to be doing what they were doing in those dark rooms either. And I think sometimes people forget that part of things and they just weaponize everything, but we're gonna just stick to the facts, okay? We're gonna just stick to the facts of a thing. We're not going to be we're not gonna be doing any of that other stuff that's been going on when it comes down to this case. Now, what I'm doing right now is of course Famer is out there, but Famer doesn't really talk to very many people. Okay, he did speak to Miss Sylvia, I think. Okay, let's see.
I didn't want to come. One of the subscribers told me to come down and took care of me real quick. You are one more time.
I'm Infamous Sylvia.
Uh-huh.
On all platforms.
That's right.
Okay. I'm what you call a trial blogger. I follow a lot of high-profile trials.
That's right.
Now, as far as what happened today they were doing the Rule 29 and the Rule 33. They didn't do much on the Rule 33. Rule 33 is for a new trial. Rule 29 is an acquittal, meaning that they're saying there's some things that happened in the case that did not follow the law, and they want the case to be thrown out.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So the judge had 4 questions, and he wanted both parties to address those 4 questions. And the government addressed it with 2 of their people. One was with Foster, that's one of the ladies that's the prosecutor, and the other one was Slavic. Those 2 tag team, and Ms. Shapiro is the one that handled it on the defense side. She's the one that was her motion. She's the one who argued it on behalf of Mr. Combs. So what it looks like
to see what they say.
What it looks like. Hey, what it looks like the judge is going to deny it, and the reason for that is because the way he sounded, the way he was presenting everything, he was more like rooting for the government side. So I don't see any credence to that. And then when the government was giving their argument, they even said, "Judge, I'll give it to you during sentencing." So that's just telling me right there, hey, don't hold your breath. They're going to not give them the turnover. But
I'm gonna just say this. Yes, Miss Sylvia is very pretty. I love Miss Sylvia. Let me tell you, she's the most kindest. I don't know about any of the stuff that people had going on down there. But Miss Sylvia was always nice to me. She was always soft-spoken. She even tried at one point in time to get me a seat in the press side. After they had already did the seat, she tried to see if she could, get me on there some way, even as a reserve. And I appreciate her. She was telling me some things about, what I could do, what I couldn't do with the press pass and things of that nature. But I didn't have very many negative experiences down there, but I do like Miss Sylvia, and I watching her bushes sometimes because I don't think her people like me too tough, and that's cool. But Miss Sylvia, shout out to her. Definitely shout out to her. She followed the YSL case. She's been on a lot of cases for real. She definitely is someone who follows the trials, especially the ones that are right there in Atlanta. She's covered them.
Here's what I do believe, that his sentencing is going to be extremely light. And here's the reason why I'm telling you. Guys, I watch so many cases where they doing like people go for bond, people go for probation and getting their reductions and things like that. And one of the things that reason why I say he is not going to get full time, because he has been doing a lot of things at MDC to help his case. He is teaching classes. He is taking classes for himself in trying to help the other inmates. He had so many letters, y'all. I'm going to read the letters to you guys on my channel. He had so many letters from everybody. He had it from Pastor Jones.
He had 65 letters. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
No, those who knows him, that's Grace Jones' brother, twin brother, Grace Jones' twin brother. He had letters from ex-girlfriends. He had letters from even the jail itself. He has letters of him being an outstanding inmate. He's teaching classes to help the inmates to improve themselves and have some sort of things when they get out of jail. So he has been doing so much tremendous work in the prison system, right?
Now, I'm going to say this. She could be right. He could possibly get a softer prison term. He could. He very well could. However, the whole thing about him teaching other people and doing all of this and I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. And here's why. You haven't even completed courses for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? You just finished the trial. Where's your domestic violence? Where's your therapy? Where is the rehab? There's no way you're going to tell me that trial just ended in July. We're only in September, getting ready to go into October. So you're telling me that in 2 months, he's done this complete 180. Anybody could be a model prisoner. And I'm not saying this because I want to see a black man down. Because I've already explained to people on my channel that I don't want to see any black man down. But if you did something that requires you to sit down for a minute, then you need to sit down for a minute. And I haven't forgotten anything that was brought up out in that trial. I haven't, sitting there listening to all of this, having 4 legal pads and 3 notebooks, composition notebooks, front and back of the pages of testimony that was given, having all of those transcripts, reading all of this stuff, going there every day, watching these people sit on the stand. I haven't forgotten what I heard. And I've been somebody who has been saying from the beginning that Diddy needs help. Now, based off of what I'm hearing, I told you guys that Judge Submarinian is more than likely getting annoyed with all of the stuff that's been going on with the submission from the defense and this submission and that motion. And then it's 122 pages and it's 200 pages this, and I'm exaggerating. But I've been telling y'all that he's been getting frustrated with this. And now you just heard Miss Sylvia say for herself that the judge, he's not trying to hear it today. You heard Murad say the judge was not trying to hear it today. So for me, what makes anyone think that in a matter of a couple of days, a matter of a week, that his tone is going to change? But then again, stranger things have happened. You know, he probably could get a lighter sentence. We don't know. The Twitch froze. Let me see what's going on with my Twitch real quick, you guys. Hold on. Let me pull up Twitch. Let me see what is going on. Okay, so Twitch seems to be working. It probably froze for a minute, but it seems to be working. Okay, so Uniquely said it's not frozen over there. Okay, so I just wanted to check. It's actually on point. It's actually on time with everything. So now, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the judge's head, but you know how when you hear a person's name, how it instantly annoys you? Yeah, we've got a week. Diddy's sentencing is next week, Friday. PSR asked for 70 to 87 months despite his jail work. They see past that. See what I'm saying? YouTube people, I'm in the bushes working. I can't engage, so I'm over here. Yeah. So we have Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube going right now. In a minute, I'm probably going to just go ahead and shut down some things. But either way, anything can happen. I'm not making a prediction on things. What I am going to say is I do also know that Miss Sylvia, she is pro Diddy. So again, she has a right to feel how she feels, and I have a right to feel how I feel as well. And it's no knock or shade on either side. I just feel like he hasn't done much. It hasn't been enough time to really show improvement. I could see if this had been going on for a year, like if he had been doing this from doing these programs and all of this stuff from the beginning when he got arrested and was spending his time, and while his bail was being denied, he was still working these classes and courses all the way up until trial and doing all that. We don't hear anything of that
right now. So he's that example of a perfect inmate. So that's why I'm saying that he is not going to get much time. The defense is asking for 14 months, right? And the government is asking for between 5.5 years and 7 years, right? But I doubt they're going to get that because all those letters, he got letters from his family, his children, and then the support he has from his children, support he has from his mother, his family. He has so much overwhelming support that the judge is going to have no choice but to give him the lower end. He's going to get time served. If anything, he'll get a couple of months. That's it. That's my opinion. And y'all make sure y'all come back and tell me, hey, Miss Sylvia, you were right. Or Auntie Sylvia, you were right. Because that's what I believe. Okay?
Now, if she's correct, I will gladly say Miss Sylvia had it right with no problem. All right. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like Rutgers has changed their position. So maybe the family will be pulling back up. I'm not 100% sure. But Rutgers has changed their view to around the corner. Now, this is the corner that they come around. It's not a lot of press out there today, based on how it's been, or maybe it's just at this moment, there's not a lot of people out there, but a lot of people didn't even travel up there for this. Honestly, there may be more people that go on next week, Friday. I'm not going. Just so you guys know, I was going to go, but I decided against it only because, it's going to be a quick turnaround for me. So I'm not. And then not only that, just to side note for a second, YouTube was playing with my coint. Okay. And so I disappeared off of YouTube for a little while and started trying to build some traction and some motion over on Twitch. I'm doing pretty all right over there, but I'm still brand new to the platform. So then there's that. So I haven't really been over here. I'm just now coming back over to YouTube, but I am also streaming on Twitch, if not for nothing else, so that I can get those hours over there. There will be times where I will be live here on YouTube and Facebook. And then I will say to you guys, like right now, we're pressing up on an hour. Part of me wants to go ahead and end this live now and just be exclusively over on Twitch, just so that I can still get the interactions going over here. But stop playing YouTube. What you mean stop playing YouTube, girl? They've been playing with. Oh, you telling YouTube to stop playing? Got you. I'm like, wait, what are we? Yeah, girl, they playing with me. Okay, they for the look. Okay, now let's get into this while we are waiting. Okay, let's get into this court doc real quick for y'all. All right, we're gonna get into that. I hope this relaxing music is like doing something for you. Let me see if I can get to my court doc though. Why is it not letting me get to my court doc? Y'all know I have a specific screen. Oh, there we go. Okay. I have a specific screen. This is the screen that I like to use when I pull out my court docs. Let me get my little watermark up here because we're going to get into what Miss Comey had to say. All right. Because she got some things. She got some things going on. Okay. Miss Comey is not playing. She said, y'all played in my face, and now I'm about to play in y'all's. Well, she's not playing in theirs, but here we go. Let me close this. Let me zoom in a bit. So, as you know, Mann Comey was terminated not too long after the Diddy trial ended. And so now, as you can see from this document right here, Mann Comey is suing the United States Department of Justice, the Executive Office of the President, Francie Hanks in her office capacity as director of the executive office for the United States Attorneys, Pamela Bondi, and executive office for United States Attorneys, and Office of Personnel Management. And she is demanding a jury trial, you guys. Comey did not come to play with them. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Be More. She said, hashtag pay Henny. Thank you. Yes, they need to give you your money. Yes, they do. Shoot. Listen, in the meantime and in between time, if y'all want to hit a sister up, the tip jar is open. It is $ Jupiter Juju 8. Okay. $2, $5, $10 is well appreciated. Okay, because we back. You love the music, it's Woosah. Because she know if she does a bench trial, they'll pay the judge off. Facts. All right. So now let's get into this. All right. So the plaintiff, Mann Comey, was an exemplary, dedicated, and highly decorated public servant who spent nearly 10 years prosecuting crime and corruption without fear or favor as an assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York. During Ms. Comey's tenure, acting in accord with Department of Justice policy and pursuant to direction of Department of Justice and the United States Attorney's Office leaders, she helped protect the American public by securing hundreds of criminal convictions and participating in dozens of complex cases, including prosecutions of homicides, racketeering, and public corruption. Based on her outstanding record, she was assigned to prosecute high-profile defendants, including Sean Diddy Combs, Robert Haddon, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. In recognition of her work, the Department of Justice repeatedly promoted and honored Ms. Comey. Now let's take a pause right there, because how are you a decorated and continually promoted AUSA, and then you find yourself just terminated out of nowhere? Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the Cash App. And you find yourself terminated right out of nowhere. So it says, despite her exemplary performance, Ms. Comey was abruptly fired on July 16th of 2025, the day after the United States Attorney's Office had asked her to take the lead on a major public corruption case, and just 3 months after her latest receipt of an outstanding review. So let's pause right there. Now, a lot of people were saying that she was fired because of what happened with Diddy, but I've been telling y'all it had nothing to do with Diddy and it had everything to do. Thank you so much for the cash apps, you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much, for real. I was telling y'all it had everything to do with her father. And this right here is backing that up, because after Diddy's trial was over, if y'all remember, Diddy's trial was over on what? July 2nd? Yeah, it was over on July 2nd, because then July 3rd, there was no court. July 4th, it was the 4th of July. And I was on a plane on July 4th on my way home. Okay. On July 16th, which is after the case was over, they made her the lead on another major public corruption case. And 3 months prior to that, she receives an outstanding review. So, yeah. Defendants did not identify any cause or provide Ms. Comey any due process for her removal. She simply received an email with an attachment stating that she was being terminated pursuant to Article 2 of the United States Constitution and the laws of the United States. Ms. Comey's termination without cause, without advance notice, and without any opportunity to contest it was unlawful and unconstitutional. In addition to her fundamental constitutional rights, Ms. Comey had statutory protections under the Civil Service Reform Act that governed how and why she could be terminated, including specific prohibitions against termination for discriminatory reasons such as political affiliation. Her termination violated every one of those protections. So now, as a government employee, there is a certain manner, there is a protocol that they have to follow when they are terminating an employee, and they have to give them a reason as to why they're being fired. They have to also give them advance notice. Unlike when we work for a regular 9 to 5, because when you work for a regular 9 to 5, what's popping, goddess? When you work a regular 9 to 5, they don't have to give you any notice. Their notice is you're terminated, pack your stuff and go. Well, they have to give advance notice that she's being terminated. They didn't do that. They just right on the spot. All right. So now, defendants have not provided any explanation whatsoever for terminating Ms. Comey. In truth, there is no legitimate explanation. Rather, defendants fired Ms. Comey solely and substantially because her father is former FBI Director James B. Comey, or because of her perceived political affiliation and beliefs, or both. This is what's up in the air. Now, you have to remember that Comey, they were bringing him up. Was it a trial? What were they doing? They were doing something with him around this time that she got terminated. Now, James Comey served as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation from 2013 until President Trump fired him in 2017. For the past 9 years, President Trump has publicly criticized Mr. Comey for his actions while serving as FBI director. And because after he was fired, Mr. Comey wrote a memoir critical of President Trump, a memoir critical of President Trump, continued to publicly scrutinize President Trump and his administration, and in May of 2025 posted a message on social media that President Trump and others in the Trump administration claimed to perceive as a threat. Following Mr. Comey's May 2025 social media post and other critical statements, President Trump's supporters called for Ms. Comey's firing. Notable among those supporters is Laura Loomer, a social media influencer who, on information and belief, has political influence in the Trump administration, including influence over the termination of federal employees. President Trump has publicly stated, if you're Loomered, you're in deep trouble. That's the end of your career in a sense. In May of 2028, Ms. Loomer called for Mr. Comey's liberal daughter and her Democrat husband to be fired from the DOJ immediately for being a national security risk via their proximity to a criminal, Mr. Comey, who just committed a felony by threatening to assassinate the president. Ms. Loomer also declared that under Attorney General Bondi, every deep state operator is being emboldened. And she questioned the impartiality of Maureen and Lucas Maureen's husband in their prosecutorial roles, especially in high-profile cases, due to the undeniable bias and influence stemming from James Comey's public criticism of Trump and the ongoing investigation into his Instagram post. After Ms. Comey's termination, Ms. Loomer boasted that the decision came months after my pressure campaign on Pam Bondi to fire Comey's daughter and Comey's son-in-law from the DOJ. Now we know this is a social media president because he was the first president to have Twitter fingers, okay, to be tweeting from the crapper. All right. Does it all make sense to you? Nowhere in here do I hear this has anything to do with Diddy. So for all of those that were celebrating saying she was fired because of Diddy, and no, she wasn't. Now, the politically motivated termination of Ms. Comey, ostensibly under Article 2 of the Constitution, upends bedrock principles of our democracy and justice system. Assistant United States attorneys like Ms. Comey must do their jobs without fearing or favoring any political party or perspective guided solely by the law. In fact, the pursuit of the pursuit of justice. Congress recognized that essential position and pursuant to its Article 1 powers, enacted the CSRA to place guardrails on the removal of AUSAs and other federal employees and ensure continually and impartially in government service. So again, there's guardrails on how you can fire a federal employee. Okay, the executive branch cannot use Article 2 to overrule Congress and remove career civil servants for perceived disloyalty. Such an act violates the Constitution's fundamental separation of powers. It also violates the Bill of Rights, depriving Ms. Comey of protection under the First and Fifth Amendment. To challenge her illegal termination and assert her rights under the United States Constitution and federal law, Ms. Comey brings this action against the United States Department of Justice, the Executive Office of the President, Director of the Executive Office for the United States Attorneys, Francie Hanks, in her office capacity, U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, in her office capacity, the Executive Office for the United States Attorneys, the Office of Personal Management, and the United States of America for the purposes of seeking relief under the Administrative Procedure Act. Okay? Now, that's where Miss Bondi is with things. I mean, Miss Comey is with things. This is politically motivated. That's basically what it is. And those of us who have been keeping up, we kind of already knew that this was politically motivated because it just didn't make any sense at all as to why she would be just terminated. Okay? Now let's see what's going on out here. Let's see what's going on out here in these streets. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else out here that's reporting possibly on Diddy getting an acquittal. But nobody is really coming up in my timeline right now. Let me see. Let me think. No. If he's out there, he's not going to go live just yet. Let's see. Is there anyone out there from Court TV maybe? Court TV has a lot going on, okay? I don't think so. What about Law and Crime? Let's see if there's somebody on from Law and Crime. Maybe Elizabeth Molnar. No. This is what I'm saying. Okay, let's see. NBC. Hold on, because we have some Comey news to be tolerated at Syracuse University, guys.
Okay, Adrian, thank you so much. Well, the White House is threatening mass firings over a potential government shutdown. The Trump administration telling federal agencies to prepare for a, quote, reduction in force if a deal to fund the government isn't reached in less than a week. This is according to a memo from the Office of Management and Criminal Charges against former FBI director.
The F-16 were in great shape, essentially signaling likely stop when a
terrible things at the FBI.
Hold on.
Prosecutor who was on the case apparently did not think.
No idea what's going to happen.
5 years ago, when he testified that he did not authorize leaks to the media about a possible indictment minutes ago at the White House. Listen.
great and be fully transparent.
They're going to make a.
I'm trying to get the beginning of it. Sorry,
the UN
guys.
there is essentially saying we're going to try to get to the bottom
so
of it.
as you said USA Today. Okay, I'll do that right after this.
Learn the Justice Department is deciding whether to bring criminal charges against former FBI director and fierce Trump critic James Comey. We are told this case centers around whether Comey lied to Congress 5 years ago when he testified that he did not authorize leaks to the media during Trump's first term. Reporters asked Trump about a possible indictment minutes ago at the White House. Listen.
They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
This all coming days after Trump posted on social media and he called on his attorney general to take action against Comey and other political foes. The day before that post, a top federal prosecutor who was leading the case in Virginia resigned. Sources tell NBC News that he decided to quit rather than to seek an indictment against Comey because of a lack of evidence. NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter joins us now. All right, so Tom.
Now, I'm going to ask y'all this because y'all are all logical, critical thinkers in here. My watermark was covering his ugly face. Y'all are logical, critical thinkers in here. Based off of what I just read in Comey's lawsuit, doesn't it kind of make sense? What she's saying in her lawsuit? Yeah.
That former prosecutor who was on this case apparently did not think there was enough evidence to bring a case against Comey. Has anything changed? Is there new evidence now being considered?
Well, this is a really unusual case. And I know you guys, I'm sure, are going to ask me why we're talking about it now, why this has all of a sudden come up. But as far as the evidence, one of the things that we're hearing is that they're looking into the possibility of charging him with lying to Congress. And so whenever that occurs, we actually do have a lot of that evidence because that testimony is typically public. And that's the case here. September 30th, 2020, he testified, this is Comey, testified that he had not authorized the leak of information tied to the Clinton investigation. Then his former deputy director, Andrew McCabe, testified later that, in fact, Comey had authorized him to leak information on that case. And so obviously we have a difference of opinion here. And what some people clearly are arguing is an actual lie to Congress, and that is a federal crime. Others are saying, wait a minute, you're pitting the word of two people against each other. Is there more evidence than that? And that, Vicky, becomes a bit of the question, which is there underlying evidence here that there's intent? It's not just one thing to say, well, I think the sky is blue and you think the sky is light blue. That's not a lie to Congress. There actually has to be more there and more of an intent. So that's something that we're obviously continuing to track. And that might be one of the reasons why we haven't seen a case yet.
go back to the first question you knew I was going to ask you, which is about the timing of all of this, which feels deeply political, because this was one of Trump's obvious critics, right? And he vowed, even when he was on the campaign trail, to go after his critics. And now it sounds like the DOJ is up against a deadline.
Right. So putting aside the Trump's Truth Social post for the weekend, where he calls for action on this case, and then two others, obviously, he's more than had his issues with and is mentioned and targeted in the past, there is a September 30th, 2025 deadline because there's a 5-year statute of limitations. So if you're going to say the conduct on that day, almost 5 years ago, was illegal, then you've got to be able to charge it on or before that date. If we're talking a week from now, next Thursday, the time would have passed in order to bring these specific charges. This charge would involve a 5-year statute of limitations. So that's the reason why this has really come to a point.
All right. So that all ties in very well together, okay? As to why Maureen is saying this is politically charged and this is illegal, and I'm suing y'all. I am suing y'all. Now, excuse me, there is someone that is outside of the courtroom, and I am going to be using their live for criticism and critiques. This video is protected underneath the guise of the Fair Use Act, and we are reporting. So this is Trent Out Loud. I know a lot of people know Trent. Trent is there at the court, and I'm kind of feeling, honestly, like watching everybody that I was there with and all of that. I'm kind of like, oh, I want to go to New York so bad. I want to go. I want to cover. I want to be. I should have went. I should have. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? But then that means that I would be going right now. I would be in New York. I would be reporting, and I would be there through July 3rd. And I also said that if the fan funding was not there, that I wasn't going to go. So yeah, no, I'm not there in New York, but Trent is there. So now let's hear what Trent has to say about what's going on.
Because he had some questions and he wanted them to give them a last chance to argue both sides and argue the cases. He had some questions. I'll give you guys what the questions that the judge had. I'll give you the government's answer, and then I'll give you Diddy's team's answer. You guys could decide what you think from there. Like I told you this morning, a lot of this revolves around what is prostitution? What was prostitution during the Mann Act in 1910? And what is prostitution now? And also, did Diddy hire these escorts for prostitution, or was he an amateur PORN producer? This was the argument. Very, very clever argument.
Now, it is the argument. We just heard some of that already. So he's giving you a brief synopsis of what is going down in the courtroom.
You guys are going to have to keep an open mind about this. Like I said earlier today, you have to take the Cassie video. You have to take, it's okay, you guys should go by. All right, there's some people leaving. There's his, that's his sister and his other sister. Misa Hilton was there. Chance's mom, she was there. Miss Combs looked nice today. She had on a great wig today. So a lot of content creators that are always like dragging her for her wig choices. I thought she looked great today. Why am I not getting, where do I stand? Oh, here we go.
Okay, so now let's
forward. Then Tenny Garagos, who was the lead defense team, and she's very pregnant. During trial, she was around 3 months. I'm assuming now she's 6 months, so she's showing a lot.
Yes, Teeny was not showing at all, but you got to remember, we have been gone for a while from the court. We've been going for 2 months. Okay, so now she's probably showing, it's poking, and you can see.
Then the entire prosecution walks in. The defense walks in and they're talking, saying hi to everybody. All of a sudden, the door opens. The prosecution, the 6 or 5 ladies, walk all in together. They don't say nothing to us. They don't say nothing to the press. They don't acknowledge us, whatever. They just walk by. Then after that, Mark Agnifilo walks in, and if you don't know who Mark Agnifilo is, he was one who gave the closing statements. See, now all the black SUVs are gone. That means all Diddy's family is gone now. His mom is gone, the brother-in-law, the sisters, all his sons. It's a mess. It looked like he just woke up. Like, kind of dingy. It almost looked like, I'd say his hair was long and or whatever. And yes, he was gray. You guys saw this. I saw Diddy every day during this case, and every day he came in, as most of you know, he had that crew neck, a white shirt on, and pants. He was only allowed, I think, 4 different colors. So one day it was like a cream, the other day it was a blue or whatever. And yes, he was gray. You guys saw all the drawings, but he was more clean cut. I was not prepared to see Diddy how he walked in. This guy looked super scruffy. When I tell you his hair was long and scruffed out, beard was a little bit trimmed, but scruffed out, and he was in his prison outfit. A beige, kind of dingy, it almost looked like Dr. Scrubs. You know Scrubs that they wear like in operation? It looked like Scrubs, but brown. It was a V-neck. It looked like it was like a 2XL. Diddy did not look good. He looked...
Now, that basically what you're saying is Diddy looked like the average prisoner. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of going to a prison to go visit a loved one, but if you don't tell your loved one that you're coming, 9 times out of 10, if your loved one knows that you're coming, they're going to try to clean up a bit, right? But when a loved one doesn't know you're coming, sometimes they come down looking dingy, scruffy, scrubby. And what he's describing is Diddy looks like an average prisoner who's going through it.
Like he was a mess. It looked like he just woke up. Like he looked horrible. Again, not hating or not doing whatever. I'm just giving you guys insight on how Diddy looked. His hair had grown. It doesn't look like he got a haircut. Like, I say this to just remind you guys, like when I said earlier, it's like, yo, he needs to serve time. He needs to serve time. Like, Diddy is in jail. He has been in jail for the past 14 months. If he gets let out, it's not, oh, he beat the case. Yes, he might beat the charges, but he is in jail. Like, he is in jail. If anybody knows, anybody who's ever been to jail and you go and see them, Diddy is in jail. And MDC, as you know, is a holding jail. And
this is what I was saying to y'all. If you've ever been to jail, you know. I have to correct myself because he's not in prison yet. He's in federal custody and he's in a jail. Or is it a prison? I think it's a prison. I think he is in a prison.
It's horrible conditions. Diddy does not look like he's been taken care of in there at all. He is not getting any preferential treatment, nothing. I mean, it doesn't even look like his skin was creamed, all right? Like, if I saw Diddy on the street, I would literally think that he was homeless. This is Diddy, all right? So, again, not hating, not whatever, just reporting on what I've seen. And for you people out there who are like, oh, you know, he has all this money, he has all this whatever, I could tell you from what I saw today, Sean Diddy Combs is not getting any special treatment at all. This guy looks dingy, okay? He is definitely in a suffering state, okay?
Now, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to tap dance and say, oh, yay. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is, what did you expect? He's an inmate. He is now state property. Like, Diddy is state property. What did you expect? Of course, he had to look good for the trial. He had to present well for the jury. But now, they did not approve. He didn't get the approval for his button up. So he wasn't able to put on jail clothes. And that probably did something to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, let's get to a trend.
So prison clothes is the first time I've ever seen him like that. And by the way, this is actually normal because when you are going through a trial, the jury is supposed to see you as their peer. So they allow you to come. Right. That's why whenever you see somebody who is a prisoner or they're not allowed bail, the jury is not allowed to see them in handcuffs. They're not allowed to see them in their prison uniform because if they see them like that, it's almost like a negative impression. Like they already.
It influences them. It leaves an impact on them. So that's why, like, when people have to go to court and they have to go to trial, it's very imperative that they have presentable clothing when they go into the courtroom. It's all about optics and how people view you. You know what I'm saying? So by putting him in this cardigan and this button up and these slacks, he's looking like everyday middle class America, upper middle class America dad. You know, he's not looking like this privileged, pampered rock star. He's not looking like a prisoner, but he's looking like, hey, I'm an average day, everyday Joe, which he wasn't, but you know, that's what the optics were. So for him to go in there today and look this way, if he would have went in there and he would have been testifying in his prison uniform with his hair all over the place, looking scruffy, they would have convicted him. I'm not even going to hold you. They would have.
Look guilty. So the jury, by law, always gets to see you as if like you were their peer as one of them. It says good morning everybody and says good morning Mr. Combs. Diddy says good morning Your Honor. In the 2 months that I have been in this courtroom, maybe 5 or 6 feet away from, well, no, maybe like 10 feet away from Diddy, we've heard him speak twice. He's obviously not allowed to speak until the judge asks him. And it's when to enter in your plea of not guilty. And then I think at before the jury, he asked him something. This is the third time in the courtroom that we heard Diddy speak. He said, good morning, sir. He said, good morning, Mr. Combs. Diddy said, good morning, Your Honor. All right, so now the judge has his question. So give me a little bit of grace here because there was 4 or 5 questions, but he let the lawyers and the government, Diddy's lawyers and the government, kind of bounce around and answer his question. So it is going to be a little bit confusing because even he one time said, guys, can we just stick and follow one question at a time? So I'm going to try my best. And they're talking very fast and they're talking in a lot of legal, language. So I'll do my best to go over my notes.
So this is why I wanted to get somebody that I know was going to give you a good breakdown because, Murad, I don't know. I guess it was just, trying to keep up with everything that was going on in the room or whatever. I don't know. He gave a good introduction, but even though we've heard the transcript, so to speak, from inner city press, I still want to hear what people who are actually in the courtroom have to say. And Trent's going to give a blow by blow. So let's listen to what he's saying because you can focus now on the fact that there was 4 questions that was asked, and this was asked by the judge. The judge had 4 questions for the defense and the prosecution, and he wanted them there present in court to ask these questions and get his answers.
Sometimes I kind of go over them before I go live, but because this is so breaking, I wanted to just come at you guys right away. So just give me grace, okay? So the first point of question was about when Diddy's team decided to implement Rule 29. There's also Rule 12 and Rule 30. Mm-hmm. This was a little bit complex here, where they're saying that in the way in which they did it was not fair because they should have done it at a certain point. And the government is trying to say it almost gives them a second bite at the apple, and they don't think it's fair. By the way, I see a lot going on in the chat. I will answer all the questions at the end. Just let me get through all of my notes, and then I'll stay on and answer all of your questions. The same thing I did yesterday and today, all right? So let me get through. I'll tell you guys everything, and then I'll stay on as long as you guys want. I'm going to stay here till at least 5 or 6 o'clock just chilling. So I got you, okay? I see a lot of questions coming.
Now, we're not going to stay on here until 5 or 6 o'clock. We just want to get the skimmy to the meat and the potatoes of things. So let's skip forward a little bit to where we see him reading his notes, and let's get into it.
But I got to protect my bag and my phone. Okay, so they're going back and forth, and basically the government is literally just trying to say, look, the way how they're going about bringing this Rule 29, the time that they did it, saying that it's his constitutional right to do everything, they're saying the timing is what they didn't like, and they're feeling like it's getting a second bite at the apple. While they're negotiating and talking, or I shouldn't say negotiating, but while they're deliberating over Rule 29, then the prosecution brings in the conversation about the definition of prostitution, and that's when the judge was like, let's just stick one thing at a time. So I think kind of like the Rule 29 and the timing kind of got brushed aside, and they jumped over to one of the other questions, but I guess it's because it was more important. And I think that's what once I describe everything to you guys, I really want to know what you think, okay? So pay attention. The Mann Act, violation of the Mann Act, there are 2 things. There needs to be an SEX exchange, right? And there also needs to be a financial gain. So for example, under the Mann Act, it's transporting somebody across state lines for commercial and financial gain.
That's not 100% entirely true. Hold on one second. Define. because we looked this up already one time before, and we went to Cornell for that. Okay, so the Mann Act, which they do have it in here, as also known as the White Slave Act of 1910, is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl for the purposes of prostitution or debauchery, or for any immoral purpose. That's what it originally was. Now, hold on. I'm trying to see. Okay. Because that's the definition of the Mann Act. And I'm going to show it to y'all right here. Right here. Mann Act. Boom. So it's the that's what it is. All right. And then it goes on to say that 1978, okay, while the Mann Act was never repealed, it was amended a few times, and the most notable of which were in 1978 to address issues of child pornography, and in 1986 to address the act's misuse against consensual sex by replacing the phrase any other immoral purpose with any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense. So I just want to make sure that we have the proper understanding of the Mann Act. When you get down to prostitution, that's something that's different. Prostitution is the exchange of sex for anything of value or goods. And the gain would be for the prostitute with the money, but you have to exchange something of value. Now, I think where people are getting it twisted is because I think they're mixing up the Mann Act with sex trafficking. Okay, because in sex trafficking, hold on one second. It's the trafficking is a form of human trafficking that transports or exploits a person for the use of sexual. Okay, it involves giving or receiving monetary or non-monetary. Let me put this back up on the screen. It gets confused. Okay, so sex trafficking is a form of human trafficking that transports or exploits a person or to use them for sexual acts, right? So it says it involves giving or receiving monetary or non-monetary I don't know how to say that word. I'm not even going to say, but basically like the exchange of goods. This includes the child sex services and a pervasive loss of freedom for a child, right? Sex trafficking does not require force, fraud, or coercion and occurs even if it appears that the teacup human is in agreement with the conduct, okay? Or the teacup human does not consider themselves a victim. But if you take the teacup human part out of it, there's also other definitions. The definitions of sex trafficking is met even if it appears. If you take child out of it, because it's not just child. Okay, we know that. It's not just child. So a person can be trafficked. And it's like some of these rules, some of these things are getting twisted and misconstrued. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up. But prostitution, we all know what that is.
And there also needs to be a financial exchange, just money exchanging. We're going to get into this, for example. So basically it's PIMP-ing, right? That's really what the law says. If you break it down, it's like literally somebody who has a ring of girls, they're transporting them and they're doing this as a commercial activity for financial gain, and there is financial exchange, okay?
That's actually what we see in trafficking. So again, he's talking about trafficking. He's not really speaking about the Mann Act. Now, also, it doesn't have to be a ring. You could have one person and traffic them, transport them across state lines to engage in prostitution. And that there you have it. You can get charged for one person for trafficking. You can get charged for one person for this Mann Act. So I think the problem, we're still seeing it. Okay. We're still seeing it. And shout out to Trent. This is no knock to him. I'm just explaining because I spent a lot of time looking into this case. So people have in their minds these horrific scenes. When you think about trafficking, you think about dirty gutter conditions. You think about people being chained to radiators and not being fed for days and just laying on a dirty mattress on the floor, and just this line of people just coming in and having sex with them, even if they're consenting to it. That's what we think of when we hear of the sex trafficking, right? And the transportation to engage in prostitution that's going on, right? You think of people being thrown in vans or in the back of these big rig 18-wheelers, and that's not all that it entails. You understand what I'm saying? So we've got to really start looking at it from a real perspective and not just putting what has been put out there and sensationalized for us, and looking at the legal definitions of things. Because when we look at the legal definition, it simplifies it and it lets you know that, hey, this can happen whether it's a group or it's one person, and the exchange of money is happening. You understand? But let's continue.
Now, let me break it down. Why they don't think that definition applies to Diddy. Okay. So one, this can apply. This can apply to Diddy. And then as soon as they start talking, the judge interrupts and says, the judge replies and says, his intent were for his girls to exchange sex for money. Yes or no? Doesn't that make him guilty? If it's simply across state lines and his girlfriends had sex with these escorts, doesn't that fulfill at least one? Was there an exchange of money for sex? Now, Shapiro says, no, Your Honor. And she says clearly, no. She said, what Diddy did was Diddy was paying these men to watch as a person, the same way how a person would be sitting in one of these, booths. You know, a couple of those places that you could set up and you could go and you sit down in a booth and the screen opens and you're sitting down and you're watching somebody dance or get undressed. His defense team, Alexandra Shapiro, is trying to say he is a voyeur. Never mind Cassie and never mind Jane. They slept with the escorts, not Diddy. And again, I know, just to remind you guys, I know you hear a lot of things online and this, whatever, in the civil cases. We have to deal with the facts and the testimony. That's what the judge is only going to deal with. And they are saying that they're saying, Judge, tell me where at any time any of these escorts saying that they had sex with Diddy. Nobody did. He was a voyeur. There is no different than somebody in New York City downtown that will go to I think they call it peep show. What's up, brother? I appreciate you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yo, New York shows me love. Yeah, well, you can get online and follow it now. You can sit down and be a live guest of it, man. So where was I now? Yeah, so he's saying that he is a voyeur, no difference than somebody that's sitting down and watching at a booth. Now, the transportation part, is hold on here. The transportation is where that he wanted sex. Oh, sorry, sex. Okay, here, this is it. So the transportation part, so that is the sex part, is that he didn't do anything and it was a voyeur. Now, the transportation part is that he was transporting them, yes, but not to have sex. He was transporting them because he wanted to watch. So Diddy's defense is, A, he wanted to watch and be a voyeur. Now.
Okay, let's stop. He wanted to watch and he wanted to be a voyeur. But in order for him to watch and in order for him to be a voyeur, there has to be some type of sexual activity that is going on in order for him to be a voyeur. Because a voyeur is not just looking out the window watching the birdies fly around the yard. A voyeur is watching people have sex. So that is not a good defense in my eyes. To me, it's not a good defense, but let's continue.
A number of states have laws that do not allow prostitution, but There was a case in Georgia that there was a house that they found a bunch of people in. And in this house in Georgia, they brought them to court and they weren't able to prove that in this house where there were women and men that were going there, it was basically a strip club, okay? They weren't able to prove that there was any sex going on at that house. So that case was dropped. So whenever...
Well, here's the thing. That is a good analogy that you're bringing up, Kristen, because here's how I would spin that. It's like him owning a brothel, but never engaging in actually having sex, but he's the owner of the brothel. But you're saying he's not engaging in prostitution. I mean, that's kind of, but yes, definitely his lawyers are grasping at straws. Definitely exchange for money. But if voyeurism is his thing, then why was he paying money for it? So he couldn't find men that wanted to be a part of voyeurism without paying them. Right. Or you couldn't find a female prostitute that was with the ish, so to speak.
There's a trial like this, you have case study. So they brought this case study that happened in Georgia, which is somebody like Diddy who is transporting or having these people here, and that is not a violation of the Mann Act because Diddy didn't actually have sex with any of these guys. He's sitting down being a voyeur. So that's part one. And they're also going to go into him filming it, but like I said, they jumped around a little. So the next thing is what I told you guys this morning. They're talking about the word prostitution. Now, the word prostitution in 1910 was very different than it is in 2025. We talked about that today. So in 1946, they changed around the word prostitution, the court system, to mean sex for hire, meaning intent.
Now, we don't need a history lesson here because that's not the point. But let's see what else he gets into a little further into.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a picture right now. Yo, this is live, man, and everybody is super happy. So like, don't worry, everyone's super happy. Yo, I got a letter, guys. This is amazing. Okay, hold up here. So listen to this. So okay, can you take the picture for us, bro? You don't mind? I have this. Okay, perfect. Hold on.
Oh, somebody made him a drawing.
I have you live on my phone.
Think about this, right? That is so, and this is why, again, I don't want to rush, but this is why I think the government might be in a little bit of trouble because if a producer is filming somebody to have sex, and he's there filming him, that's exactly. I love you. Thank you so much. Yeah, flying them out. Is that transportation? That's what I'm saying. It's very, very sticky. If Diddy spends 4 years in jail for transporting somebody to. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I mean, the closing arguments were amazing. She really took a risk. So now the judge asked, hey, an adult producer, is that a violation of the Mann Act? The government says no, okay, because listen to this. Every single time an adult star gets on a plane and is crossing state lines, they know they're doing it for a movie, it's smart. The government said what the government said was really intelligent because the escort, Diddy's escort who's leaving, they don't know if they might end up having sex. They don't know if they're going to be dancing. They don't know if they're going to be filmed. The government's response to the amateur PORN is every time a real adult producer hires somebody and crosses them, they know they're getting filmed, which is a great point. Like I said, they all had a great point. So that doesn't throw the amateur PORN producer out the window, but it's definitely a great point. So the judge asked now the government's interest. Okay, so the judge says, listen, it's 2025. Why is the government so interested in regulating what two consenting adults do? There's consenting adults that want to exchange enough money. We do know that it is illegal, but we also know that a lot of people do this. There'll be 10,000 people in the city tonight that does that, or in the U.S. Maybe not. Let me not throw New York under the bus.
Yeah, don't throw us under the bus.
Happens. What is the government's reason? So the government says this. The government says, we would like to stop prostitution because it protects the public. Whenever there is prostitution around, there is a result of a lot of DV. There's a lot of SA that happens, and there's a lot of just negativity around the society. So that is why it's in the government's interest to have acts like the Mann Act and prostitution. And they made a point to say every single state in the United States of America has some sort of regulation against prostitution. If I remember correctly, is not Vegas allowed prostitution? Isn't it legal? The Diddy's defense team didn't say that, but that's...
There's some portions of Vegas where prostitution is legal. It's not everywhere in Las Vegas. It's some places in Vegas, but either way, Vegas is not on the venue or the menu for any of this either. We're talking about New York, LA, and Miami, where it is very much illegal to engage in prostitution acts. Okay.
But I have a note here, but they said there is in every state, there is a rule. So it's in the government's interest to protect the society. A lot of us don't even realize, because it's just around us, the government and these laws are here to protect society. That is why we have laws, and that's why they deem things, or why you should wear a seatbelt, why you should drive at a certain speed, why prostitution should be illegal, why unaliving is. They're lawmakers whose job it is to protect us as a society. So that is what they're saying. This case is important to let people know of why we need to not allow this in our communities. So the government's point is something like the Mann Act is very important. Stopping people from transporting prostitutions helps protect the society. It prevents, I don't know if I could say this, NUDITY, prevents women from taking their stuff off. And it has long been required, and that's why it has long been required in the United States of America for those dance clubs for women not to get fully unclothed, and they have them wearing G-strings and pasties. So they're just trying to make a...
So let me just talk to y'all about that very briefly, because New York is one of those states where a strip club cannot be completely nude if it is in a residential area or a business area. Okay, so in those clubs, they do not serve alcohol. The women can be topless. Some of them require pasties, some of them do not. However, in Florida, the girls can get butt booty naked with a garter and a smile and a pair of heels. Okay, so the rules differ from state to state for that. But either way, you're talking about strip clubs versus what was going on in this case. And if we're going to talk about just the acts themselves, then when you get into the acts themselves, when you go back and you listen to some of the interviews that the escorts have done, then you get to hear how things were going down. If you go into the testimony from both Jane and both Cassie, because to say take Jane and Cassie off the table, you kind of can't. You can't take them off the table because they played a major part in what the Mann Act was actually, why it was charged in the first place. So you can't really take that off the table. But if we're going to talk about the freak offs, I'm still going to stick to what I said. I do not understand why they did not go for obscene, dealing in obscene manners, because this was an obscene manner. The freak offs would be considered an obscene manner. They did not go for that. They should have. And it would have lined up with debauchery and all of that was going on. But either way, there was transportation, and it was to engage in prostitution. And everybody knew that if he did not get found guilty of the RICO, he would have gotten charged with that one. I thought he would have got the trafficking as well, because they kind of mirror one another. They're so similar that I thought he would have gotten it. But again, the reason I feel he did not get the RICO is because they didn't want to give him the RICO. Like the jury didn't want to give him the RICO, because if they would have hit him with the trafficking and hit him with the Mann Act, he would have definitely still gotten a RICO. It would have been a SMEX RICO, but he would have gotten a RICO. And again, just my personal opinion, and going off of that alternate juror's words in his interview, you could tell that the jurors were actually talking to one another. And I just personally believe that they were going home and they were watching YouTube as well. They were watching YouTube. They were watching the news. There was no way. They were not sequestered. They were not taken away to a place where the environment was controlled. And that, I feel, is where the government and the judge messed up at, because these people should not have been allowed to go home every night. Just my opinion, but again, opinions are like buttholes, and everybody has them. We're gonna listen to a little bit of Trent, a little bit more of Trent, and then we're gonna keep it moving. Now I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because he is also a little long-winded. All right.
Was in a massage parlor, and they didn't affect the couple
massage parlors.
So even if the law doesn't require it, if the DOJ law needs to be abolished, the judge can't do that. 100%. Like, I think it's a. And he was found guilty of it.
We weren't coerced or forced to go. We went.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your opinion.
But what I'm saying.
So your thing is, he should be found guilty of it. He shouldn't be thrown out today. But you don't think he should get a long prison sentence.
No, I'm saying he should be found with no time at all. And nobody.
So guilty, but no time.
No, I don't know anybody under the Mann Act that did time like he's.
Well,
doing.
that's a whole other thing.
It. You understand?
Yeah, 100%.
Stupid
yeah,
law.
yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you think he's guilty of it? You see, I don't think he's guilty.
If I was to walk across the street, that's jaywalking. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Stupid law.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't think he's like. I think it's a gray line if he's guilty, but at least at the end of the day, we agree that if he's guilty or not, he doesn't need to spend 5 years for that. That's all I'm saying. We can agree on that. You know what I'm saying? Like Philly to New York, 5 years? That's crazy, bro. You know? All right. Yeah, exactly. All right, let me scroll up and get to the chat. Appreciate you, bro.
Okay. Well, they keep interrupting Trent, and I'm gonna just go ahead and let his content be his content, but I don't agree. Some laws are stupid, some things need to be regulated, but I don't agree that, I don't know. I mean, I could see him getting 3, maybe 5 years for this, and the time being added up and him not serving a whole lot of time, probably staying in there. If he gets that, probably staying in there for another year and then coming home with the rest of it on, well, no, because he has to still do federal parole. But either way it goes, it is what it is. No, ma'am, I'm talking about the street they walk. It's called a strip. Oh, a strip, the blade. Yeah, well, I don't know when this judge is going to come back. Judge Arun Subramanian. He could take as much time as he wants to come back with his decision as to whether he's going to acquit. I really don't think that there's going to be an acquittal today. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's going to be an acquittal. Oh, you're welcome, Be More, and happy 17-month anniversary. She said, thank you, Henny, for always bringing us the hot Henny receipts and breaking down the facts. Now, YouTube, hashtag pay Henny. That's what I'm saying. Hashtag pay Henny. God dang it. All right. Well, if he comes back with a decision, I mean, I do see some reporters going in. Okay, she's a major news reporter. I'm looking at Rutgers. She's rushing in. I don't see others rushing in at this immediate moment. I do see a lot of the content creators are still out there. If I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this kind of makes me miss New York. I miss living in New York. This was just a train ride away from me. I could have been down there covering it. I do miss New York for this reason. Then you have the Luigi Mangione trial or Mangione trial. I didn't mean to slaughter his name. You have that trial going on. You have the Alexander brothers trial that's going on. You also have the Tekashi 6ix9ine trial that is happening too. Tekashi 6ix9ine is in court today as well. Let me bring that to you guys. Hold on one second. Let me bring that to y'all as well. I forgot all about Tekashi 6ix9ine. Okay. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's read this case. Yeah, everyone is in court. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's cases going on in New York, and I'm like, damn, I miss home. I could have been there. I probably could have ran between the courthouses. All right. So now let's get into Tekashi 6ix9ine while we're on here. And don't worry, I'll be chopping these videos up for y'all. All right. So, according to the New York Post, all right, it says Tekashi 6ix9ine says he was cuffed for hours as feds raided his home and found DR Uggs and Pum-Pums in his home. Okay. Now, troubled rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine said that he was handcuffed for 6 hours as federal authorities raided his Florida mansion, where they seized DR Uggs and Pum-Pums. The 28-year-old rainbow-haired rapper named Daniel Hernandez told TMZ the police and federal agents busted into his home on Wednesday morning and tore up the place while they bound his hands from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay. Let's see. The Palm Beach County, get out of here. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office confirmed that its narcotics squad joined federal probation officers in searching Hernandez's mansion, where he is under house arrest. Shout out to FYSMD TV popping in. Now, the Brooklyn native says that officers took DNA samples from him and confiscated Pum-Pums and DR Uggs to test for traces of DNA. The sheriff's office confirmed that it took items for additional analysis, but did not specify if they included the firearms. I hate saying Pum-Pums, firearms and illegal substances. Hernandez insisted that he's done nothing wrong and has been just hanging out while riding out the remainder of his house arrest. Okay, he was not arrested as there was no probable cause at the time, according to TMZ. Now, hold on. I don't know if he's in New York or if he's in Florida. So let me get myself together. Hold on. So let's get the violations up for y'all, because we're still waiting to find out what's happening with Diddy. I don't know, you guys. I kind of do want to go up there to New York, but I just don't have the funds. So I don't think I'm going to go on the runs. All right. So this is June. That's May. Okay, here we go. So boom. Let me. He lives in Wellington. Get the hell out of here. All right. So let's get the court doc screen back up here. This is why I'm over here, because I know how to maneuver StreamYard a whole lot better than Restream. So I'm going to be some days I'll be on Restream, some days I will be on this one, just so y'all know. Again, just a reminder, if you've been with me for the Brandon Isabel case, we will discuss that at 6 p.m. today. I don't give a damn what's going on. We're going live at 6 o'clock to discuss that case. Okay, so this is dated July 3rd, and it says the parties right to provide the court with an update regarding the above captioned defendant's violation of supervised release. Specifications in advance of the upcoming July 23rd, 2025 VOSR hearing. Assuming it is acceptable to the court, the parties anticipate that at the upcoming hearing, Hernandez will admit to VOSR specifications 3 and 4, which are each the upcoming hearing. I don't even know what I just said. Okay. Hernandez will admit specifications 3 and 4, which are each grade C violations, charging him with unlawful possession of MDMA and cocaine, respectively. You had MDMA and cocaine. Boy, you had Tusi. That's Tusi, y'all. I want to know, was it pink? Because if it was pink, then you definitely are Tusi, but that is the making of Tusi right there. Anyway, following his admissions, the government will move to dismiss specifications 1 and 2, whereupon the government understands that the defendant, with the government's consent, will request an adjournment for sentencing. Because the defendant's anticipated admissions will obviate the need for the evidentiary hearing, the government respectfully requests that its witnesses who would otherwise need to travel from Florida to provide testimony be excused from appearing at the upcoming July 23rd hearing. And that is signed Jay Clayton. That's Trump's boy, remember? All right, so then we have an update from May 5th of 2025. And again, this is Jay Clayton writing to the judge, and it says, the parties right to provide the court with an update regarding the above captioned defendant's violation of supervised release specifications, and to respectfully request an adjournment of the May 22nd, 2025 VOSR hearing. Since our last appearance before this court, the government has collected from the United States Probation Office and provided to Defense Counsel certain Rule 16 discovery materials regarding the March 12, 2025 search of the defendant's home, including, among other things, a copy of the relevant search warrant and search warrant affidavit, photos and videos taken during the execution of the search warrant, and a laboratory report regarding the controlled substances seized from the defendant's bedroom. So basically, they now have the lab results back. So now this is where this is coming in at. So earlier today, the government learned that it will take at least approximately 6 weeks from tomorrow's date, which is June 17th, 2025, for the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department to develop and compare results, if any, of DNA swabs taken from Hernandez's person and from a firearm recovered in Hernandez's pool house, where a member of Hernandez's family apparently resided at the time of the search. Once these results are received by the government, they will be forwarded to Defense Counsel for review. In order to provide sufficient time for parties to receive the above described DNA testing results and to consider whether those results warrant the filing for additional VOSR specifications and or how those results might affect a resolution of the current VOSR specifications, and because the undersigned attorney is scheduled to be on annual leave from on or about July 7th through July 18th, the parties jointly and respectfully request that the court adjourn the current scheduled May 22nd, 2025 VOSR hearing until a date during or after the week of July 21st, 2025. So basically, they're asking, because we have all of this stuff coming back, because we're going on vacation, to adjourn it, which leads us to September 11th, okay? Which basically says that the court schedules the arraignment for September 25th at 11 a.m., and that is today, okay? And you know, you're hearing about Florida, but this right here is the United States Southern District of New York. Now, the reason why it's the Southern District of New York is because if you remember, Tekashi 6ix9ine Daniel, his first the reason why he's on federal probation and supervised release is because of the case that he got caught up with the non-trace. Is it the non-trace? The Bloods that he was associated with. That's where his original case came from. But they raided his Florida home, so now it's a violation of, you know, his supervised release. And so he has to go back to New York State Court. Now, if you remember when he was talking about Young Thug, and he was speaking on the whole snitching thing, he said that he had violated his probation several times and that he stood in violation as they were speaking. So, yeah. Hey, boo. How was school? School was cool. So, yeah, then there is that. But let's see, is there anything going on at the courthouse at all? Because I don't think so. I don't think there's anything going on right now. Trent is still live. I know some of y'all. Oh wait, he's not live anymore. Why is he not live? Let's see. Okay, I don't know. I don't think Trent is Trent definitely didn't. I don't know if he went inside or not. Excuse me. So there y'all have it. Y'all have gotten a Diddy update and y'all have gotten a Marine Comey. I'll chop these videos up so y'all can go back and y'all can watch them again later at your leisure. Okay, let me get this off the screen. But for right now, you guys, it doesn't look like there's anything. I was trying to stay on here until they came back. Oh wow, look, there goes Mama Flip. Hold on, Mama Flip is in the building. Now that's somebody that I know I definitely can call, and she will gladly come up. But Mama Flip is outside the courtroom, you guys. Mama Flip. Oh, Emily is out there as well. I really miss being up there. Like, I feel so bad. I wish I was there. But you know, you are very welcome. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to see now because I'm seeing, you know, like Mama Flip is going inside. Emily knows everything is out there. I wonder if Jaggy-ish is out there. Shout out to all of these people that I met while I was up there. I'm trying to see who else is there. Uda is not there, you guys. Uda is, or at least when I last checked, Uda was home. He wasn't there. Let's see who else this is. If this is somebody I know walking up. No, don't know that person. But people do look like they're going inside. So I have no idea what is going on. I guess we'll find out the verdict when we find out the verdict, you guys. In the meantime and in between time, I think I'm going to call it a day. Let's see. Yeah, Uda was alive an hour ago. Yeah. Who else can I check and see? Well, I know Tisa's not there. Tisa is also at home. Yeah, she's not live anymore either. All right, you guys. So I will see y'all when the verdict comes out as to what the judge decides. In the meantime and in between time, y'all remember to vibe high so the bullshit don't stick. I'll see y'all back here regardless at 6 p.m. I will let you know now, I am only going to be live on YouTube and Facebook for 1 hour. And then we will all be transferring over to Twitch when I begin to speak about Brendan Isabel. And if you are following me on Twitch, then you already know the beginning, but I am going to do a beginning run through of day 1. I'm going to play some clips for y'all. I'm going to also play some clips of day 2. I'm also going to get into day 3 because today is day 3. So when we come back at 6 o'clock, y'all prepared to be here for a good time and a long time. Okay. Matter of fact, I don't know. I might just stay on YouTube. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but I'll figure it out. There goes Miss Knockout and African Diddy. They are out there as well today streaming. So that's beautiful to see that a lot of the streamers who were there are there again. In the meantime and in between time, I am going to go handle my stuff and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace, everybody. Thanks for tapping in and tuning in with your girl.